Life in Aloria had settled into a gentle rhythm. Princess Lyra spent her days learning from Kale, exploring new ideas and laughing more freely than she had in years. Yet as the twin suns rose and set over the glittering city, a shadow was quietly creeping closer from the depths of space. It began with the distant flashes on the observation screens in the royal control room. Strange energy readings, unlike anything the Alorian scientists had seen before, pulsed near the outer edges of the galaxy. Ships sent to investigate returned only fragments of information, strange alien patterns, vast fleets moving with unnerving precision, and a presence that seemed to anticipate every Alorian maneuver. The council convened in the Grand Hall. Lyra observed silently as the advisors argued, their voices rising and falling in panic. "We cannot face this threat alone," one elder said, his hands trembling. "Our fleets are strong, but their numbers, their technology, it is unlike anything we have faced." Another counselor added, "Perhaps we must seek allies even among humans. They have clever minds, unusual solutions, but a human cannot understand our customs, our rules of engagement." Lyra's gaze fell on Kale, who stood quietly near the back, analyzing the same data she was studying. He did not seem afraid. Instead, there was a calm determination in his stance, a quiet confidence that unsettled the counselors but inspired Lyra. After the meeting, Lyra returned to her tower, her mind buzzing with worry and ideas. "Kyle," she said, "do you really think humans could help us defend Aloria?" Kale looked up from the projection of the alien fleet. "Not just humans, Lyra. Cooperation, strategy, courage. You have all the pieces, you just need a new perspective to connect them." Lyra frowned. "The council will never allow it. They will see your suggestions as interference." "Then we work quietly," Kyle said. "Sometimes the right action is more important than approval." That night, Lyra and Kyle pored over the data. They studied the alien fleet's movements, energy signatures, and past attacks on smaller systems. Kale noticed patterns the Alorian scientists had missed. "They rely heavily on intimidation," he explained. "They expect opponents to panic. But if we stay calm, adapt quickly, and use the environment to our advantage, we can hold them off." Lyra's eyes lit up. "You mean like using our terrain, the city's energy shields, and diversion strategies?" Kale nodded. "Exactly. They underestimate those who can think creatively under pressure. Humans survive by adapting. Alorians survive by planning. Together we can be unstoppable." For days they refined the plan in secret. Lyra mapped out the city's defense zones while Kale suggested improvements, new energy shield alignments, resource allocation strategies, and unconventional traps to delay the alien fleet. Their collaboration was seamless, a meeting of human ingenuity and Alorian precision. But whispers in the palace corridors were growing louder. Some nobles had noticed the princess spending long hours with a human. "She is ignoring her duties," one remarked. "If the human fails, the city will pay the price. This is dangerous folly." Lyra overheard these words but did not reply. She had faced disappointment and doubt before. She knew the path she was choosing was risky, but it was guided by knowledge, strategy, and trust. And for the first time, she was not alone in her decisions. Kale had shown her that courage was more than personal bravery. It was shared, deliberate, and grounded in intelligence. Finally, the day came when the alien fleet appeared on the horizon. Ships of dark metal and strange geometry glinted against the starlight, moving with an eerie synchronicity. Panic rippled through the city. Citizens ran to shelters, while the palace sent orders to the fleets to prepare for battle. Lyra stood at the observation tower with Kale at her side. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension. Kale nodded. "We are as ready as we can be. Remember, Lyra, fear is their weapon. Courage and careful planning are ours." The first wave of alien ships approached, firing energy pulses that lit the sky with bursts of blue and green. Lyra's heart raced, but she focused on Kale's instructions. The energy shields activated, guided by the adjustments they had made together. The alien attacks were strong, but the shields absorbed much of the energy, and Alorian drones launched countermeasures to disrupt the enemy formations. Kale moved among the control stations, coordinating rapidly with both Alorian and human engineers. "Redirect power to the upper shields. Focus on their central attack formation. Lyra, you need to deploy the diversion drones now." Lyra followed his instructions precisely. She felt the thrill of working in perfect synchrony with someone who understood her mind and trusted her completely. The city responded like a living organism, shields pulsing, drones darting through the sky, and energy pulses deflected in precise patterns. But then disaster struck. A smaller fleet broke through the defenses and targeted the observation tower itself. Lyra's heart leaped into her throat as alarms blared. "Lyra, move!" Kale shouted, grabbing her hand. Together, they ran to the emergency escape pod. The tower shook as energy blast hit the structure. Lyra could see the city below, threatened by the invaders, yet her focus remained on Kale's steady presence beside her. In that moment, she realized something profound. True courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it, and to act together. The pod shot into the sky, dodging debris and laser fire. Lyra's hands trembled, but Kale's calm guidance kept her grounded. When the pod finally landed safely in the palace gardens, they both exhaled, relief flooding through them. "Thank you," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. Kale shook his head. "We saved ourselves together. That is all the thanks we need." As the battle raged on, Lyra returned to the control room. With Kale's guidance, she coordinated counterattacks, redirecting energy, deploying additional drones, and reinforcing the shields. Slowly, wave by wave, the alien fleet began to falter. Their formations broke and their energy pulses lost synchronization. The citizens of Aloria watched in awe as their city's defenses, led by a princess and a human working together, repelled an invasion that had seemed unstoppable. Cheers erupted from the streets when the last of the enemy ships retreated beyond the horizon, leaving the city battered but intact. After the battle, the council reluctantly acknowledged Kale's role. The human strategies were effective, one elder admitted. Another counselor nodded. His insight, combined with Princess Lyra's leadership, saved countless lives. Lyra turned to Kale, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "You were extraordinary today," Kyle smiled softly. "You were extraordinary, Lyra. I only helped you see it." In the quiet aftermath, Lyra walked through the palace gardens, observing the citizens who had emerged from shelters to see their city still standing. She felt a surge of pride, not just in herself or Kale, but in the people of Aloria, who had faced fear and danger with courage. Soren hovered nearby, its sensors recording the scene. "It seems, Your Highness, that human ingenuity has complemented Alorian precision perfectly." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and it reminds me that trust, courage, and cooperation are as powerful as any weapon." That evening, Kale joined her by the observation window. They looked out at the stars, silent for a moment. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and full of unknowns. "Do you think the threat is over?" Lyra asked softly. Kale shook his head. "Perhaps not. But we now know what humans and Alorians can accomplish together. We will be ready next time." Lyra smiled, a quiet hope blossoming within her. The battle had tested her resolve, but it had also strengthened her heart. She realized that love, courage, and trust were intertwined, not in grand gestures or declarations, but in the quiet acts of bravery and partnership that made survival and victory possible. For the first time in years, Lyra felt that her life had purpose beyond duty and expectation. She had met a human who asked only for her name, and in return, he had shown her that even in the darkest of times, hope and courage could prevail. As the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the city, Lyra felt a quiet determination settle in her chest. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and mysteries, but with Kale by her side, and the knowledge that humanity could adapt, innovate, and inspire, she knew they could face whatever came next. And so, the princess who had once given up on love now understood that courage, partnership, and trust were the beginnings of something greater than she had ever imagined. The galaxy had tested her, and in doing so had shown her a path not only to protect her people, but to embrace the possibility of connection and love once more. The city of Aloria was quiet for only a few precious hours. The night after the first wave of the alien fleet retreated was filled with whispered celebrations, repairs, and nervous glances to the sky. Princess Lyra knew that the victory was temporary. The aliens had retreated, yes, but they were not defeated. Their numbers were immense, and their strategy suggested patience, precision, and cruelty. Lyra sat in the observation tower with Kale by her side, studying the galaxy through the panoramic windows. Stars twinkled in the distance, serene and calm, but she could not ignore the dark blot of the alien fleet gathering beyond the horizon. "They will return," Lyra said quietly, more to herself than to Kale. "And when they do, the city may not be ready." Kale nodded. "Then we must make sure it is." The first defense showed that humans and Aelorians working together can achieve extraordinary things. "Now we must do it again, but better." Lyra turned to him, eyes bright with determination. "We cannot rely only on the fleet or shields. We need a plan that uses every advantage we have, our terrain, our energy networks, even the citizens themselves." Kyle smiled faintly. "Exactly. And that is why I am here, to think differently, to see possibilities you might have missed because of tradition or expectation." For the next several days they worked tirelessly. Citizens volunteered to assist, engineers improved energy shields, and drones were programmed to move in complex formations that would confuse and delay the enemy. Lyra coordinated with the council, making sure to balance her authority with Kale's unconventional suggestions. Some council members resisted, wary of relying on a human's insight, but the evidence of the first battle spoke louder than their doubts. Finally, the day came when the alien fleet returned, larger and more organized than before. Dark ships blotted out the stars, moving with terrifying precision. Aeloria braced itself. Citizens huddled in shelters, fleets took their positions, and Lyra and Kale prepared to lead from the heart of the city. "Stay close," Kale said, placing a steadying hand on Lyra's shoulder. "We need to act as one. Every decision, every command, every choice counts." Lyra nodded. "I trust you, Kale. Let's protect Aeloria together." The battle began with a surge of energy pulses from the alien fleet, illuminating the sky with green and violet bursts. Drones swarmed to intercept and energy shields shimmered as they absorbed the attacks. Lyra's voice rang through the control room, giving orders to adjust shields, redirect power, and deploy countermeasures. Kyle moved alongside her, analyzing patterns in real time. "Focus the upper shields on the central sector. The smaller fleets will try to break through there. We cannot let them reach the residential areas." Lyra adjusted the commands, directing drones to create a moving wall of energy that funneled the enemy ships into traps. Every decision required split-second timing. Every choice could mean life or death for thousands of citizens. Suddenly, a massive alien ship broke through the outer defenses, targeting the observation tower where Lyra and Kale were stationed. Alarms blared and red warning lights filled the room. "Lyra, move!" Kyle shouted, grabbing her hand. They ran toward the emergency pod, dodging debris and bursts of energy that shook the tower. The ship's attacks rained down around them, and Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. But Kale's presence was steady, his calm focus guiding her through the chaos. The pod shot into the sky, weaving between falling structures and laser fire. Lyra's hands gripped the controls, her mind alert to every detail. They landed safely in the palace gardens, the night sky lit with streaks of energy from the battle still raging above. Lyra turned to Kale, her chest heaving. We made it." Kale gave her a small, reassuring smile. "And now we keep going. The city depends on us." They returned to the control room where engineers and citizens alike were working furiously to repel the alien fleet. Kale's strategies, combined with Lyra's leadership, began to turn the tide. Drones moved in unpredictable patterns, shields adjusted dynamically, and the enemy ships found themselves trapped in a web of Aelorian technology and human ingenuity. As the battle raged, a smaller alien vessel broke through the defenses, heading straight for Lyra. Kyle reacted instantly, rushing to intercept. In a daring move, he maneuvered a drone to intercept the ship, deflecting its energy pulse just as it reached the observation tower. The explosion rocked the nearby structures, sending debris flying. Lyra watched in horror and awe as Kale risked his life to protect her. Her chest tightened with emotion. In that moment, she understood that courage was not just about strategy or intellect. It was about caring enough to act, even when danger was certain. The alien fleet began to falter. Their formations broke under the combined human and Aelorian strategies. Their energy pulses misaligned and less coordinated. Slowly, wave by wave, the enemy was pushed back. The citizens of Aeloria, witnessing the city's resilience, emerged from shelters and cheered as the fleet finally retreated beyond the horizon. The control room erupted in applause. Engineers hugged, citizens celebrated, and even the skeptical council members had no choice but to acknowledge the victory. One elder approached Lyra, his voice formal but respectful. "Princess Lyra, your leadership has saved Aloria, and this human. His strategies were remarkable." Lyra turned to Kale, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "We did it together," she said softly. Kale shook his head. "You led. I only helped. You were extraordinary." The two of them stood together, looking out over the city they had saved. The streets were filled with people celebrating their safety, and Lyra felt a surge of pride not only in herself, but in the courage and determination of the citizens who had supported them. Later, as the city recovered, Lyra and Kale walked through the palace gardens. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of alien flowers and ozone from the battle. Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. "I never thought I would feel hope again. I never thought I could trust someone so completely." Kyle glanced at her, his expression gentle. "Trust is earned, Lyra, but it also grows when you allow yourself to see the heart of another. You allowed me to see yours." Lyra looked down, her hands clasped together. "I gave up on love long ago. I thought it was a luxury I could not afford, but now I realize that love is not about crowns or titles. It is about courage, connection, and trust." Kyle smiled. "Exactly. And sometimes it is forged in the heat of battle, when lives are at stake and hearts must be brave." Lyra laughed softly, the sound carrying over the quiet garden. For the first time in years, she felt free. Free from expectation, free from fear. Free to be Lyra, not the princess, not the symbol, but herself. That night, the palace slept under the twin moons, safe for now. Lyra stood at her window, looking out at the stars, thinking of the battles yet to come. She knew the galaxy was full of dangers, and that threats would rise again. But she also knew that she was not alone. With Kale by her side, with the courage of her people, and with the knowledge that humans and Alorians could achieve extraordinary things together, she felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. For the first time in her life, Princess Lyra understood that love, courage, and leadership were not separate. They were intertwined, and in that understanding, she found strength she had never known before. As she turned away from the window, Kale took her hand. "We survived today," he said softly, "and tomorrow we will continue to protect this world together." Lyra nodded, squeezing his hand. Together, the galaxy stretched before them, vast and full of unknown dangers. But in that moment, they faced the future with determination, courage, and a bond that could withstand even the darkest of nights. And so, the princess who had once given up on love now knew that trust, bravery, and connection could lead not only to victory in battle but to something far greater. The beginning of a love forged in courage and understanding. The city of Aloria glimmered under the soft light of the twin moons, a testament to survival, courage, and ingenuity. The alien fleet had been driven back, their ships vanishing into the darkness of space, leaving the city battered but intact. Citizens emerged from their shelters cautiously at first, then with growing relief and joy. They walked through the streets inspecting damage, helping one another, and offering thanks to the brave souls who had saved them. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of her tower, looking over the city she loved so dearly. Her heart was heavy with exhaustion, but light with a sense of fulfillment she had never felt before. She had led her people through the storm, guided by both her own instincts and Kale's insight. Kale joined her quietly, his presence calm and reassuring. He did not speak at first, simply standing beside her, taking in the city and the stars beyond. Lyra felt a sense of peace in that silence. A silence filled with understanding, trust, and something more she had only begun to recognize in her heart. "You did it," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "We did it. Aloria is safe," Kyle shook his head. "We did it together. You made the decisions that mattered. I only helped where I could." Lyra turned to him, her silver hair shimmering in the moonlight. "Kyle, I owe you so much. Not just for your help during the battle, but for showing me that trust and connection are more important than fear and expectation." Kyle smiled gently. "That is what humans do, Lyra. We see, we care, we act. But you saw it for yourself. You led with courage, heart, and mind. That is what truly saved your city." Lyra looked away at the streets below, where citizens were repairing buildings, cleaning debris, and embracing one another. She realized that the victory was not just in repelling the aliens, but in the resilience and unity of her people. And in that moment she understood something deeper. Courage and love were inseparable. One could not exist fully without the other. She turned back to Kale, a small smile playing on her lips. There is something I want to tell you. Something I never thought I could say again. Kale tilted his head, curious. What is it? Lyra took a deep breath. I'm grateful. And more than that, I have begun to believe in love again. Not the kind of love told in stories of kings and knights, but something real. Something like what we have shared. Trust, understanding, and courage. Kale's eyes softened. Lyra, I feel the same. I never asked for more than your name, and yet what we have, it feels bigger than anything I imagined. Lyra laughed softly, a sound of pure relief and happiness. A name was all it took. You asked only for my name, and in return, you gave me hope, courage, and a heart that dares to trust again. They stood together in silence, the night sky above them a vast tapestry of stars, each one a reminder of the galaxy's wonders and dangers. They knew the future would bring challenges, that the alien threat might return and that there would be trials they could not foresee. But for now they allowed themselves to simply exist in this quiet victory, knowing they had each other. The Palace Council soon acknowledged Kale's role in the battle. Some members were reluctant, their pride wounded by the success of a human strategy, but they could not deny the truth. Kale's insights had saved thousands of lives, and Princess Lyra had led her people with bravery and wisdom. One counselor, once skeptical, approached Lyra with a respectful bow. Your Highness and Kale, your efforts have proven invaluable. Aeloria owes you both a debt we cannot measure. Lyra inclined her head gracefully. We acted together. That is all that matters. Kyle gave a small nod, his humility and quiet confidence leaving an impression even on the most stubborn council members. In the following days, the city began to recover. Structures were rebuilt, energy grids repaired, and citizens returned to their routines, though they would not forget the bravery they had witnessed. Lyra took a moment each day to walk among them, speaking quietly with those who had fought and those who had endured the siege. She saw resilience, courage, and compassion in their eyes, and it filled her with pride. Kale stayed close, helping where he could, but always respecting Lyra's leadership. Together they walked through the repaired gardens, watched the twin suns rise over a city that had survived and thrived against the odds, and talked about the future, both for Aeloria and for themselves. Do you think the galaxy will test us again? Lyra asked one morning, her gaze following a distant starship disappearing over the horizon. Kale smiled faintly. Perhaps. But every challenge we face only makes us stronger, and we face it together, Lyra. That is what matters. Lyra nodded, feeling a quiet strength settle within her. She realized that the greatest power was not in weapons or technology, but in trust, courage, and the willingness to connect with another heart. She had learned that love was not weakness, it was the foundation of strength. One evening, as they walked along the palace gardens illuminated by glowing plants, Lyra paused. She turned to Kale, her eyes shining with emotion. Kale, I want you to know something. I never thought I would open my heart again, but I feel ready. Ready to trust, ready to care, ready to step forward without fear. Kyle took her hand gently, his eyes reflecting the twin moons above. And I am ready, Lyra. Ready to walk this path with you, whatever it may bring. They walked in silence for a while, hand in hand, the city peaceful around them. It was not a moment of grandeur or ceremony, but a moment of connection that mattered more than anything else. They had fought for their city, for their people, and in doing so, had discovered something even greater. The courage to care, the strength to trust, and the beginning of love born from respect, bravery, and understanding. Lyra smiled softly. Kyle, may I ask you something? Anything, he replied. What is your name? She asked, her voice gentle. Kale chuckled softly, understanding her meaning. I am Kale, he said simply, offering no titles, no ranks, only himself. Lyra took a deep breath and smiled, the corners of her lips turning upward in a radiant expression of hope and joy. Kale, she said, repeating his name aloud. It felt grounding, intimate, and real, just as she had wanted her own name to be seen. The simplicity of the exchange held more power than any words, any ceremony, or any decree. Two hearts recognized each other, not for titles or expectations, but for what they were. The weeks that followed were filled with quiet rebuilding, both of the city and of relationships. Lyra and Kale continued to explore the city together, share stories of distant worlds, and plan for a future that was theirs to shape. Citizens, inspired by their courage and partnership, began to believe that even in the vast galaxy, unity and trust could overcome fear and adversity. Lyra often found herself looking at Kale, marveling at the human capacity for courage, ingenuity, and warmth. And Kale looked at her, seeing a princess not defined by her crown, but by her heart, her intelligence, and her unwavering determination to protect those she loved. One day, as they stood on the highest balcony of the palace, looking at the stars that stretched endlessly beyond the city, Lyra spoke softly. "Kale, I once believed love was impossible for me, that it was a dream I could never have, but now I know that love can be real, even in the most unlikely places, and I want to live that reality with you." Kyle's eyes shone with emotion. "Lyra, I want that too, and I will do everything I can to protect it, just as we have protected this city." Lyra smiled, her heart swelling with hope. She realized that the galaxy was vast, full of challenges and wonders, but she no longer faced it alone. With Kale by her side, she felt ready for whatever might come. Together, they could face the unknown, explore new worlds, and build a life founded on courage, trust, and love. As the twin moons bathed the city in silver light, Lyra took Kale's hand and held it tightly. "This is the beginning," she said. Kale squeezed her hand in return. "The beginning of everything." And so the princess who had once given up on love found herself standing in a new world, a world where courage, trust, and human ingenuity had triumphed over fear, where hearts could connect beyond titles and expectations, and where love could grow quietly but powerfully. Even in a galaxy full of stars, the city of Aloria thrived. Citizens rebuilt and celebrated, inspired by the courage and partnership of their leaders. Princess Lyra and Kale, side by side, looked to the future with hope. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of adventures, challenges, and possibilities, but together, they knew they could face anything. And in the quiet of the palace gardens, under the stars and twin moons, two hearts beat in unison, a promise of love, courage, and a new beginning. A beginning born from a name, a spark of trust, and the bravery to care. The story of Princess Lyra and Kale became legend, not because of titles or battles alone, but because it reminded the galaxy that humanity, its courage, creativity, and capacity for love, could change everything.